The night began like countless others in Green Bay, Wisconsin. May 20th, 2016. A warm evening, the kind that pulls people from their homes toward laughter and music, and the comfort of strangers in crowded bars. Nicole Vanderheiden, mother of 3, substitute teacher, a woman described as vibrant and full of life, stepped into that night with her boyfriend Douglas to try. She had no way of knowing she would never return home. The hours that followed would spiral into confusion, then terror. Then finally a discovery so brutal it would shake the small community to its core. Nicole's body would be found in a field, her injuries so severe that dental records were required to confirm her identity. Over 200 bruises marked her skin. Strangulation, blunt force trauma, signs of sexual assault. The violence inflicted upon her was methodical, relentless, unforgiving. But before the body, before the field, before the horror fully revealed itself, there was only a night out. Nicole and Doug had been together for some time. They shared a child, a son named Dylan. Their relationship had its difficulties, arguments that flared and faded, tensions that built and released. On this particular evening, they joined friends at a bar called the Watering Hole on the west side of town. Nicole had been at another venue earlier, a concert at a place locals called the Sandlot, before meeting up with Doug and the group. Alcohol flowed freely, inhibitions lowered. At some point during the evening, Nicole grew upset. She believed Doug was flirting with another woman. The accusation sparked an argument. Words were exchanged. Tempers flared. Nicole, angry and hurt, walked away from the group. She left the Watering Hole and headed south on Maple Street alone, intoxicated, vulnerable. Doug remained behind initially. He tried calling her. She answered but refused to believe it was him on the line, convinced he was using someone else's phone to trick her. She hung up. Every subsequent call went straight to voicemail. Doug and his friends drove through the streets searching for her, circling blocks, scanning sidewalks. They returned to the Sandlot thinking she might have walked back there. No one had seen her. She had vanished into the night. Doug eventually went home. He relieved the babysitter and took care of Dylan. The next morning, hungover and groggy, he assumed Nicole was sleeping off her anger somewhere. It was not unusual for her to need space after a fight. Hours passed. Concern grew slowly, then urgently. By the afternoon of May 21st, Doug filed a missing person report. The details he provided painted a picture of a woman last seen upset, walking alone through the streets of Green Bay in the early hours of the morning. The last confirmed sighting was surveillance footage of Nicole leaving the Sandlot. After that, nothing. She had stepped into a void. The next day, May 22nd, a farmer was picking rocks in a field with his family near the intersection of Bellevue Avenue and Alloways Avenue. They were working the land, moving through rows of wheat, when one of them stopped. A shape lay partially hidden in the grass near the tree line. At first, it was unclear what they were looking at. Then the realization hit. A body, a woman, long hair, motionless. The call came in quickly. Authorities arrived and secured the scene. The body was badly damaged. Bruises covered nearly every inch of exposed skin. The face was unrecognizable. A belly button ring provided one point of identification. Blonde hair, physical build. The description matched Nicole Vanderheiden, but confirmation required dental records. The injuries told a story of sustained brutal violence. Strangulation marks circled her neck. Blunt force trauma had shattered bone. Evidence suggested sexual assault. Whoever did this had not simply killed her, they had destroyed her. Nearby, investigators found clothing discarded along the roadside, Nicole's purse, her shoes, personal belongings scattered as though thrown hastily from a moving vehicle. The proximity to her home added another layer of horror. This was not a crime committed in some distant, anonymous location. It happened close to where she lived, where her children slept, where her life was supposed to be safe. Attention turned immediately to Douglas Ditray. He was the boyfriend, the last known person to see her, the one who had argued with her, the one who waited hours before reporting her missing. Text messages between them revealed conflict. Nicole had called him abusive. There were allegations of past violence. The relationship was unstable, marked by fighting and reconciliation, passion and volatility. Ditray was brought in for questioning. He seemed cooperative but emotionally distant. There was a flatness to his responses, a lack of visible distress that unsettled the detectives. He explained the events of the night, the argument, the search, the decision to go home and wait. He claimed he had nothing to do with her disappearance. He agreed to let them search his house and her car. Inside the garage, investigators found blood. A shoe print on Nicole's body matched the tread of a sneaker found in the residence. A neighbor cutting his grass had hit something with his lawnmower and discovered a frayed cord. Testing would later reveal it was one of the murder weapons. The evidence appeared to point directly at Doug Dietrich. The crime scene was right there, steps from their front door. Doug was arrested, handcuffed, taken into custody. It seemed like a straightforward case. Boyfriend and girlfriend fight. He kills her in a rage. He tries to cover it up. The pieces fit together neatly, but then something unexpected happened. Doug had been wearing a Fitbit during the night Nicole disappeared. The device tracked his movement, his steps, his activity level. The data showed he was stationary during the hours Nicole went missing. He was at home, not moving, not mobile. The vehicle equipped with a tracking device confirmed it had not been driven. Doug Dietrich could not have transported Nicole's body to the field where she was found. The blood in the garage was not hers. It came from a turkey Doug had been hunting weeks earlier. The shoe print was inconclusive. The forensic evidence that seemed so damning began to crumble under scrutiny. Doug Dietrich was released. The real killer was still out there. Investigators returned to the forensics. A single sock had been found on Nicole's body. DNA was recovered from that sock. The sample was run through the system. A match came back. George Stephen Birch, a 38-year-old man who had recently moved to Green Bay from Virginia. He had no prior connection to Nicole. He was a stranger. Birch became the focus of surveillance. Days later, he was involved in a hit-and-run accident. He denied involvement and offered his phone data to prove his innocence. That decision became his undoing. Detectives used Google location data to track Birch's movements on the night Nicole disappeared. His phone pinged near Nicole's residence. It pinged at the field where her body was found. It pinged along the highway where her belongings were discarded. Every critical location connected to the crime placed George Birch at the scene. He was arrested. His DNA was tested again. It matched swabs taken from Nicole's ankles, wrists, forearms, hands, fingernail clippings, arms, palms, and vaginal and cervical swabs. His DNA was on the cord used to strangle her. The evidence was overwhelming. Birch maintained his innocence. He refused to speak without a lawyer. When he finally decided to testify at trial, he told a story that defied belief. He claimed he had gone to a bar called Richard Cranium's on the night of May 20th. He was alone, drinking, socializing. He noticed an attractive blonde woman standing nearby. They started talking, flirting. She seemed interested. He did not know who she was. She gave no indication she was in a relationship. They hit it off. Eventually, she suggested they go somewhere private. His housemates were awake, so they could not go to his place. She drove them back to her house in her vehicle. They parked in front of her residence. The lights were on inside. She thought the babysitter might still be awake. They stayed in the car. They kissed. Things escalated. They moved to the back seat. They had sex. He described it as rough, consensual intercourse. Then, according to Birch, everything went black. He woke up on the ground outside the vehicle. His pants were around his ankles. He was disoriented, confused. Something nudged him. He looked up and saw a figure standing over him. A man, hooded, holding a gun. The man's face was obscured. He could not see clearly in the darkness. The man ordered him to move to the back of the vehicle. Birch complied. That was when he saw Nicole. She was lying on the ground behind the truck. Blood covered her face and body. He did not know if she was alive or dead. The man with the gun instructed him to pick her up. Terrified, Birch obeyed. He carried her to the vehicle and placed her inside. The man forced him into the driver's seat and climbed into the passenger seat behind him. He gave Birch directions. Turn here, go straight, drive. They ended up in a field. Birch was ordered to carry Nicole's body into the tall grass. He did as he was told. When they reached a steep incline, he saw an opportunity. He lunged at the man, shoving him backward, and ran. He got into the car and drove away as fast as he could. He never looked back. Birch claimed he never called the police because he was terrified. He believed the man with the gun would find him. He thought no one would believe his story. He said he did not know who the man was, but he implied it could have been Douglas Dutree. The defense strategy was clear. Point the finger at Doug. Suggest he had motive, opportunity, and a history of violence. Paint Birch as a victim, a man in the wrong place at the wrong time, coerced into participating in a crime he did not commit. The prosecution dismantled the story piece by piece. If Birch was knocked unconscious, why were there no visible injuries? Why did he go fishing with friends the next day, smiling and carefree, as though nothing had happened? Why did his DNA cover Nicole's body if he was only an unwilling accomplice? Why did his phone track him to every location tied to the crime? Birch took the stand. He was confident at first, self-assured, certain he could explain away the inconsistencies. But under cross-examination, his composure cracked. The prosecutor pressed him. "You expect the jury to believe Doug Dutree stood there and beat his girlfriend to death while you were unconscious on the lawn? You saw her injuries, the fractured jaw, the defensive wounds on her hands, the bruises. You want us to believe you had nothing to do with it?" Birch grew defensive. His voice rose. His answers became sharp, hostile. The calm demeanor vanished, replaced by anger. The jury saw it, that flash of aggression, that inability to control his temper. It was brief, but it was enough. After 3 hours of deliberation, the jury returned. Guilty. First-degree intentional homicide. George Stephen Birch was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Birch appealed. He argued the Fitbit data that cleared Doug Dutree should not have been admissible. He challenged the use of his phone's location history. The Wisconsin Supreme Court upheld his conviction. Every argument failed. Nicole Vanderheiden's family sat through the trial. They listened to the details of her final hours. They heard how she fought, how she struggled, how she tried to survive. Doug Dutree's mother spoke at the sentencing. She said something simple, something true. "Go home today, hug your loved ones, tell them you love them, show them you love them." Nicole went out one night expecting to return home. She never did. A stranger saw her. I wanted her, took her, killed her. She fought until she could not fight anymore. Her children lost their mother. Her family lost a daughter, a sister, a friend. George Birch stole all of that in a few hours of unthinkable violence. The night Nicole disappeared, she walked alone through the streets of Green Bay, angry, hurt, vulnerable. George Birch was watching, waiting. And when the opportunity came, he acted. No hesitation, no mercy. Just violence, methodical, brutal.